Howdy, folks. This is Professor Ryan, and I'm going to do this online conference one. This is a recorded version of online conference one, and what I want to do in this conference is simply introduce you and try and prepare you for all of the responsibilities and requirements that you're going to have in my class this semester. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about me first. Who am I? I am a PBA graduate. I graduated from PBA in 2000, in December of 2000, with a degree in business management from the Rinker School of Business. I am also a former full-time professor at PBA. After I graduated from PBA, I went to graduate school, and I got mostly through a doctoral program. And while I was working on my doctorate, I went back to PBA to work for 3 years, from 2004 to 2007. Now, I never finished my PhD. I was right there at the end, but I just didn't finish up my dissertation. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm actually really happy with everything that I learned in my PhD, but I am glad that I had a chance to teach at PBA full-time. It has given me the opportunity to continue as an adjunct professor teaching online, which I have done for about 10 years now. Now I live in the Atlanta area, and I am a high school math teacher, but I actually mainly teach dual enrollment classes in math in one of the schools just east of Atlanta, in a small county called Rockdale County, and that's what I do. I love it, and I get to teach math, college math to high schoolers, and then for you guys, I get to teach economics to college students. So I really enjoy my career. Communicating with me. I'm sure you'll want to get a hold of me at some point or another. So the best way to get a hold of me, if you're going to email me, is you should email me through the Canvas inbox. I prefer the Canvas inbox over the PBA email because I have the Canvas app on my phone, and the app warns me or alerts me, notifies me when I get a message or when something else interesting happens, when assignments are submitted. So if you email me through PBA email, the regular email, I will probably ask you, hey, can you please send this message to me through Canvas? That way I can keep track of all my messages in Canvas. Now, if you send me a message in Canvas and I don't answer your message, then you probably should then go ahead and send me a text. If I delay my response, text me and say, hey, Professor Ryan, I sent you an email in Canvas and I never got an answer back. And I am so sorry that happened, but my life gets super busy sometimes. I'm sure that happens to you as a college student, and so I hope you can understand. But I want to answer you. I'm not delaying on purpose, and so I send me a text, and I will go and check on that message and make sure I answer it. So in emergencies, and it doesn't bother me at all if you text me, but if you have an emergency on a quiz or a test, or you haven't heard from me, or you really need an answer on something sooner, then go ahead and send me a text. My phone number, my mobile number is in the syllabus, and so you can go get that number from the syllabus and you can send me a text and say, but here's the thing, when you text me, can you please include your name at the beginning of the text so that I know who is texting me and I can help you if I can right away. Now, if I'm in the middle of teaching a class, or if I'm at a movie or something like that, I might not be able to answer your text for a couple hours, but it's a lot faster than emailing me, okay? So that's who I am. Let's talk about the course. Let's do kind of an overview of the course. And there are 8 modules or sections, and it depends on whether you're in the 8-week version of the class or if you're in the 16-week version of the class. If you're in the 16-week version of the class, which takes place during the fall semester and the spring semester, you are going to get 2 weeks per module. 2 weeks times 8 modules is 16 weeks. But if you're taking this class in the summertime, you only have 8 weeks for this class, and so you're going to have 1 week per module. Got to get everything done in that module in 1 week, okay? Also, if you're taking the OLE version of this class in the middle of the fall or in the middle of the spring, well, that also is an 8-week class, okay? And you got to get that whole thing. You're going to have 1 week per module. Now, each module includes the following assignments. There's going to be a warm-up right before you learn your, right before you go through the lessons. And then there's going to be 3 narrated lessons per module, and therefore 8 times 3. That's a total of 24 lessons in the whole class. Then there's a summary assignment, which is basically a lot of practice, and you're trying to prepare for the quizzes and the exams. Then there's a vocabulary activity, which is it's a crossword puzzle, help you learn your economics terms and their definitions. And then there's a discussion question where you watch a video and you answer some discussion questions and you interact with other classmates. And then lastly, at the end of each of the modules, there's a quiz. So that means there's 8 quizzes altogether in the semester. Okay, so that's the overview of the course. Now there are some assignments that you don't do every single module. There are 4 exams, and so I believe the first exam is after it's either in the second or the third module, and then a few weeks later you're going to have your second exam. Then in the 8th module you have the third exam and also the final exam. There are going to be 2 critical thinking papers that you're going to write. That's 2 one-page papers. And so since it's only 2 of them, obviously you're not going to do 1 per module. And we'll talk about the critical thinking papers for a little bit today. But I'm going to do the second online conference that we do in a few weeks. That entire conference is strictly talking about the requirements of the critical thinking papers. And then there are going to be 3 online conferences. Well, this is the first one right here. Now this is the recorded version of it, but you can also do the live version of the online conference as well. Okay? All right. So let's talk about the warm-up assignment. Okay, well, the purpose of the warm-up assignment is to remind you of something that we learned in a previous lesson, or to condition, it's supposed to be to, not the, or to condition your brain to learn something new that's related to something you already know. So what I do is I like to get your brain ready for what you're about to learn, and so I'll give you something to exercise your brain, maybe some problems from a previous lesson that you viewed, or I'll give an example, or have you do something just to get your brain ready to learn the lessons that you're about to view. Okay, it's designed for your benefit. The warm-ups are not designed to waste your time. I don't want them to be a waste of my time. I put a lot of effort into these warm-ups, and the reason I created them is to help you learn, not just to take up more time. Chances are, if you do the warm-ups, you'll actually save time learning because you will have prepared your brain for the learning, and you'll be able to make connections between ideas much faster because you did the warm-up. Now, this is just a hypothesis, but I believe that you will actually learn less, or it'll be harder to learn if you skip the warm-ups. So don't skip the warm-ups. They are there for you to be able to learn better. Okay. All right, so then we move on to the lessons. The lessons themselves are basically narrated PowerPoints is what they are. Okay, so they're PowerPoint slides, kind of like what you're doing right now. We're going through a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm narrating the PowerPoint so that I can try and explain some stuff to you. Well, that's how the lessons are, okay? I try to explain using diagrams and words and other kinds of things. I try to explain economic concepts to you, okay? So this is what you would see right here when you go into the lesson. For example, this is lesson 1.1 here. And I want to call your attention down here to this little corner right here, because this could be very helpful for you when you're going through when you're going through these lessons. So if we blow this up here, see this little paper clip down here in the corner. If you click on that paper clip, it'll open up this box here that says attachments, and you'll see slides, okay, PDF. If you click on this right here, it'll open up a PDF file, and that PDF file is all of the PowerPoint slides in that presentation. And so we click here, then if you click on here, and that'll open up these slides right here. And these are the slides in PDF form. And you could put them on your phone or on an iPad, or you could put them, or you can print them up if you want to, but try not to use up too much paper. But I mean, maybe use up all the paper you want. If lots of paper helps you to learn, then that's fine. Okay? But I want you to be aware that you have access to these slides, so that if you need to view them before seeing them on here, or while you're watching the video, while you're watching the narrated lessons, maybe you want to take notes on the PDF version, or if you printed up the paper version. But that's there for your assistance, okay? So the lessons contain all of the content that's going to be on the quizzes and exams. What I mean by that is you don't need any additional content really, other than the narrated lessons. Now, the textbook is supplemental, and it can help you to understand all of the concepts better, but the exams and quizzes are based on the narrated lessons. So you want to make sure that you go through the narrated lessons. All right, so inside of the lessons are mini quizzes. They're these little quizzes with like 3 or 4 questions, so that you can practice what it is that you've been learning, okay? Now, these questions on the mini quizzes are very similar to the actual questions on the quizzes and the exams. In fact, what I did was I wrote all the questions, and then I split them up between the mini quizzes in the lessons, the quizzes, and the exams. So they're all very similar. So if you do well on the questions in the mini quizzes, then you're preparing yourself to do well on the quizzes and on the exams. So doing these questions on the mini quizzes will help prepare you to perform well on the quizzes and the exams. Okay. Now, if you're working on these mini quizzes inside of the lesson, and a question won't let you move on, because let me explain what happens with these mini quizzes. You have to get I think you can only get one question wrong and still move on. But if you don't get most of the questions correct, what the PowerPoint or what the lesson will do is it'll push you back to the beginning of that section, and you'll have to watch all those slides over again. Now, you can skip over them by pressing the forward arrow button, but if you keep taking the same mini quiz and you keep getting the same question wrong, if it won't let you move on, you should keep trying and try to figure out what you're doing wrong. But email me or text me if it becomes impossible to move on. Now, one of the reasons why people often get these questions wrong repeatedly, one of the reasons that it won't let them move on, is because it's a calculator question. And they're using the calculator, and they're calculating the problem, and they know how to calculate the problem because they were taking notes on the lesson, and the lesson showed them how to make the calculations. But some problems have multiple calculations. So let me say something about calculating answers. When you are calculating an answer with a calculator, some problems require you to calculate 3 or 4 different numbers and then do a final calculation. So you're using the calculator with at 4 or 5 different steps in finding your answer. But what some people will do is when they get their first answer in the calculator, they will round the number. Then the second answer they get, they will round that number also. And then they take all these rounded numbers, put it in a final calculation, and then they round the final answer. And what happens is all of that rounding makes their number, their answer, be just a little bit off, and so the answer comes back as incorrect. So here's what you need to do. There's a rule in math that you have to follow when you're calculating answers using a calculator, and that is you never ever round a number until you have reached your final answer. So if you do like step 1 in a problem and you divide something, and your answer is a decimal and it has like 14 numbers after the decimal point, well, you have to use that whole number. Not like a whole number. What I mean is you have to use the entire decimal. You don't want to round that thing. You want to use the complete decimal number as best as you can, included in the calculation up until you are at your final answer. Once you're at your final answer, then you can round the answer and then enter it in. And then it should come out as the correct answer. Now there's another issue with calculating answers, is that some concepts, by logic or common sense, they should be whole numbers. Okay? So, for example, let's say there's a bicycle company that produces bicycles. Now, is it possible for that bicycle company to produce 143.79628 bicycles? No, that is not possible. When you produce bicycles, you produce them in whole bicycles. You don't produce 0.79 bicycles. So if your answer is supposed to be a certain number of bicycles, you should make that a whole number. So instead of 143.7962, you should just say 144. You need to round to a whole number. Okay? So some variables can't be decimals. So for example, a population of people can't be 1,793.6 because you can't have 0.6 of a person. Okay? It's going to be either 1,793 people or 1,794 people. Okay? All right. Let's talk about the summary assignment. The summary assignment is a very important assignment, and you should make sure that you do all of them. Okay? The purpose of the summary assignment is to review new knowledge and to bring together what you have learned in the 3 lessons. Okay? The summary assignments are usually practice problems that are exactly like the quiz and exam questions, but with different numbers and situations. Kind of like the mini quizzes that I just described. Remember how I said I wrote up a bunch of questions and I put some of those questions on the mini quizzes and I put some of them on the quizzes and some on the exams? Well, I actually also saved some of those questions for the summary assignments. Okay? So when you're doing the summary assignments, you're basically taking a practice quiz. You are practicing the kinds of questions you'll see on the quiz. So if you don't do the summaries, chances are you won't really do as well on the quizzes as you could do. So make sure you do the summaries. Now what I do with the summaries is a lot of times it's a PDF that you can print out, and I recommend that you print out those PDFs. Okay, actually I'm going to say something about that on the next slide. First I want to say the summaries are probably the best of all the ways that you could study for the quizzes and the exams. The summary assignments are probably the best way to study for the quizzes and exams. So you want to make sure that you set aside time to do these summary assignments. If you're planning on taking quizzes on like a Saturday or maybe on a Sunday, the last day of the module, you may want to set aside 2 hours, maybe, a couple hours, I would say, maybe an hour. I don't know. It depends on the summary assignment. Set aside some time the day before to work on the summary assignment. to make sure that you understand, and then you can prepare, be better prepared for the quiz. Here's what I was saying before. I recommend that you print out the summary assignment because it's a PDF file. And I made it to be printed so that you can work through the problems with pen or pencil. Working through problems with a pen or a pencil, in my opinion, is very effective because it makes a connection between your brain and the paper through your hand. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I'm telling you, I have been doing math and economics for a long time, and I promise you that I get much more out of what I do on paper. And I got paper everywhere. I've got notebooks all over the place. I got graph paper, I got lined paper, I've got blank paper, I've got cardstock, I've got all kinds of paper. I'm telling you, it works. It works with your brain works it out when you're working it with your hand, okay? So then after you work out the problems, you can look up the answers in the answer key. When you go to the summary assignment in the modules, you'll see with the worksheet, with the summary assignment worksheet, I have provided the answers to. Look for the word key, and then when you click on that, it opens up my personal answers to those problems, and you can compare your answers with my answers. All right, you could even print out the summary sheets before you even start the lessons so that you can, while you're going through the lessons, you can sort of predict where the lesson is going, and you can see all the words on the summary that you're seeing in the lessons, okay? All right, let's talk about the vocabulary, the crossword puzzles. Now, these are optional, but let me tell you, you're probably going to do better on the quizzes and exams if you do these vocabulary crossword puzzles. Now, economics has a very large and very important, very specific and technical body of terms, okay? Meaning in economics, there are lots and lots of words, and those words mean very specific things, and you want to know those words, okay? It's very important for you to know the technical definitions of all of those words, because in economics, there are words in economics that mean something just a little bit different than what they mean in business or what they mean in marketing or something like that, okay? Now, the better that you know these terms, the better that you will understand the lessons, because I use these words all the time in the lessons. The better you'll understand the quizzes and the exams. Also, knowing all of these economics terms will probably make you smarter and wiser as a decision maker in your life, okay? Because these words in economics is the scientific study of decision making. And so all of these technical terms in economics have something to do with making decisions. So these crossword puzzles can help you prepare for the matching questions on the quizzes and exams. So the quizzes and exams have these matching questions where you have to match the terms to the definitions of those terms, okay? Along with the summaries, these crossword puzzles will help you to prepare for the quizzes and exams. I always have students, every semester I have one or two students who will text me and they'll say, I'm not doing as well as I thought I would. I'm really struggling. Is there anything that you can recommend so that I can do better on the quizzes and exams? My first question every time is this: are you doing the crossword puzzles? Are you completing the lesson summaries? Are you checking your answers on the summaries to the keys? And a lot of times the answers that students give me is no, I'm not doing those things. And I say, well, that's the first thing I recommend, is that you do those things and see if you do any better on the quizzes and the exams. All right, let's talk about the discussion questions. Once per module, you will view a video and you'll discuss the ideas with your classmates. To get full points, your first post under the discussion for that module must be made by midnight on the Wednesday, midnight Wednesday, before the Sunday at the end of the module. So if you're in a 1-week class, your first post has to be made by midnight every Wednesday, because every module closes on every Sunday, okay? But if you are in the 16-week class and the modules are 2 weeks long, then your first post is due by the second Wednesday in the module, because after the second Wednesday is the second Sunday, and that's when the module closes, okay? So you got to make that first post by that Wednesday. Now, you must also reply to another person's comment in order to get full points, okay? Now, preferably, you will debate with that other person, okay? Because here's the thing is that these videos that I'm posting are very controversial. And because they're very controversial, they give a lot of opportunity for good debate and good, rich conversation, okay? But a lot of times what I get is I get students who don't want to debate with one another. They don't really want to discuss the question. They just want to get it over with. And so here's what's really frustrating. The videos are very controversial, so it's important for you to be polite. Okay, I want you to be polite, but please, please do not just agree with other people. I'm not asking you to reply to another person so that you can just say, "Hey, wow, I really liked your comment. I agree with you. We're best friends now. High five. Yay, we both agree." You didn't accomplish anything by agreeing with the person. All right, you're not going to dig deep into your thinking by agreeing with other people. So let me encourage you, when you're replying to another person, try as hard as you can. Go out of your way to disagree with the person. Now, when you disagree, you don't have to be mean to them, and you don't have to say, "Well, I disagree with you because your opinion is stupid and a piece of junk." What you can say is, "I can see why you think what you think, but have you considered this point of view, which is different than your point of view? Also, in your statement, you assume that this is true. But what if that's not true? What if this other thing is true? Then your opinion, your argument falls apart, and it would lead to this happening." So you're not saying, "I disagree with you and you're a jerk." You're saying, you're asking them, "Have you thought of these consequences? Have you thought of what would happen if these other people did what you said? Have you considered the fact that there's other people in the world with these problems?" So you want to not disagree in the sense that you're going to throw food at them or get angry at them. You're just trying to challenge their point of view and get them to think deeply. And at the same time, you yourself are thinking deeply, because you're not just agreeing. You want to learn how to challenge people to grow their understanding and deepen their thinking by voicing your differences of perspective. Even if you do agree with them, what you can do is you can play devil's advocate to get their neurological impulses firing, get them to think deeply, dig deep into their brain and into your brain, into new or old ways of thinking, okay? Just think differently with each other so that you can bring up different perspectives and really get a good conversation going. I promise you, if you get a good conversation going, it's not just going to be 1 or 2 people replying. You're going to have 10, 15, 20, 25 people all having a conversation. So anyway, that's what you should be trying to do in these discussions. All right, let's talk about the quizzes and the exams. Each module has a quiz. That means you're going to take 8 quizzes, but there's only 4 exams. The quizzes and the exams are due by the end of the module, okay? So the module in which they are assigned, that's the module in which they are due. And they are due by the Sunday night, whichever Sunday night is the end of the module. Now, here, this is really important because I understand that different professors handle online quizzes and exams differently. So because different professors handle things differently, you got to understand what I'm about to say. In my class, you may take a quiz or an exam only once, one time. And the grade that you get, that's the grade that you get, okay? You cannot, here's another thing. You cannot start a quiz or exam and then later log out you can't start a quiz and exam, then, after you work on it for 20 minutes, you log out, then later log back in and then continue it, okay? If you work on a quiz or an exam for 25 minutes and then exit and it'll automatically save your answers, but it'll also automatically submit it and grade it right away. So if you only answered 7 out of 20 questions, if you got 6 of them right, then you're going to have a 30% on that quiz. You have to complete all quizzes and all exams in a single session. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is over the past couple semesters, I've had several students who I think they have been in another class with another professor who allowed them to start a quiz, then save their answers, then log out, then go home, then start their computer back up again, log into the class, and then continue the quiz. I do not allow that. You cannot do that in my class. You have to complete the entire quiz or the entire exam in a single session. So here's what you need to do. If you know that you need an hour and 15 minutes for this quiz, you need to go somewhere where you're not going to be interrupted for an hour and 15 minutes. You need to go someplace where it's going to be where you know you can be guaranteed quiet for an hour and 15 minutes. Or maybe you put some headphones in and listen to music for an hour and 15 minutes while you take the quiz so that you're not disturbed by people around you. Okay, so this is very important that you plan when you're going to take the quiz, when you're going to take the exam. I also recommend while you're taking the quiz or the exam that you put your phone on airplane mode so that you're not disturbed by texts, you're not disturbed by phone calls, because if you only have an hour and 15 minutes to take a quiz and your mom calls you and wants to talk for like 30 minutes, you just lost 30 minutes that you would have spent on that quiz. You can't pause the timer. The timer counts down. You got to get the whole thing done in the allotted time, okay? So plan when you're going to take the quiz or exam, plan where you're going to take the quiz or exam, and plan to be in a place at a time when you can concentrate and focus on that quiz or exam and eliminate all of the distractions around you, okay? Now, like I said before, the grade that you get on that one take is the grade that you get. There's no going back in and taking it over again, and that's just the way it is. Now, sometimes there are problems on some of the questions. I've seen this happen before, so it's not a big surprise to me. But if you have a concern about a question, then can you please send me a Canvas message or send me a text, and I'll look into that question and I'll try and figure out what the problem was, okay? Now, here's another thing is that I do not allow students to review their answers after the test is over or the quiz is over. Once you submit it, you can see your grade, but you cannot go in and then look at which questions you got wrong. You will not know which ones you got wrong. If you have a question about that, you can send me a message and you can say, hey, Professor Ryan, could you tell me what I did not understand in that quiz? I got a 73 and I thought I should have done better. And then what I can do is I can go into your quiz, look at the questions you got wrong, and I can send you an email back and give you a summary of the subjects that you struggled with and that you should go back and review. All right, now let's talk about the 2 critical thinking papers that you're going to write. Okay, now, like I said, the next online conference number 2, is going to be entirely dedicated to the requirements for these papers. But before that online conference, I want to make sure that you know, and I have found a lot of people did not, the last couple semesters, they didn't know this, that the requirements for the 2 papers are actually in the syllabus. And when I say in the syllabus, I don't mean on page 3 or 4. Go all the way to page 8 and 9 of the syllabus. Page 8 of the syllabus says critical thinking paper number 1, and then has a whole bunch of stuff that explains in great detail what the paper should be like. Then page 9 of the syllabus says at the top critical thinking paper number 2, and has lots of detailed description of what that second paper is supposed to be like. So what I would do if I were you, in fact, maybe right now or when this is over, go find the syllabus. I sent an email out that included the syllabus as a PDF file. You can also find that PDF file inside Canvas. Now, if you go to the syllabus link on the side panel, it shows you a digital version of all the assignments and when they are due. That's not really the syllabus. That's Canvas's version of the syllabus. You need to find the link that takes you to a PDF of the paper syllabus. You want to read the paper syllabus and then go all the way to the pages 8 and 9. That's where the descriptions of the critical thinking papers are. But I'm going to go over those paper descriptions in online conference number 2. Now, these 2 critical thinking papers are critical thinking papers. People oftentimes don't understand what critical thinking is. Critical thinking does not mean that you're going to finish the thing in an hour and 15 minutes. If you're writing your paper in an hour and 15 minutes, I promise you, you are not thinking critically. You are thinking fast, recklessly, and superficially, okay? Because you're trying to get the thing written in an hour and 15 minutes, and that's just ridiculous. This is a critical thinking paper. You should be thinking about this paper for a couple weeks before it's finally completed. You should be spending more time on this paper not typing than typing. You should be reading the requirements, thinking deeply about what it is you're going to write about, and you should be letting your brain think subconsciously about the ideas and the important things that you want to say in this paper. And so let me give you an example, or let me go through something here. The definition of critical, okay? And I'm going to focus in on C here. See this? Critical means exercising or involving careful judgment or judicious evaluation. I promise you, things that are careful and judicious do not happen quickly. They take time. Also, thinking. Definition of thinking, the action of using one's mind to produce thoughts. So you should be using your mind to produce thoughts of careful judgment and judicious evaluation. And in order to use your mind to be careful and judicious, you need to think slowly and deeply. You need to drown out the world and think about what you're thinking about. That's what critical thinking is, and that's what you need to do when you're writing this paper. Using your own mind to produce thoughts that exercise careful judgment and judicious evaluation. Well, what's judicious? Judicious means characterized by sound judgment, okay? That's good. That's good, deep, correct judgment, okay? Sound judgment is the capacity to assess situations shrewdly and draw conclusions that make sense. And in order to draw conclusions that make sense, you have to think deeply, and it takes time to think deeply, okay? But we'll talk more about these critical thinking papers in the next online conference. Okay, so here are some recommendations that I have for you to be successful in this class. The first one is I recommend that you log into Canvas every single day throughout the whole semester, at least twice per day, not twice throughout the semester, every day at least twice. Even if you log in just for 3 minutes, here's what it's going to do. By doing this, logging in twice a day, all right, now sometimes you'll log in and you'll be logged in for 2 hours. But even if you only log in for 3 minutes, just to check your messages, okay? By logging in a couple times a day, at least twice, you will develop a routine of logging into Canvas so that you do not forget that you're in an online class. See, we don't get together twice a week. You never see my face. You're not reminded that you're supposed to go be in a room with other people. There's no reminder that you have signed up for my class. So you have to develop a routine of going online and seeing if anything's going on in the class. And by logging on twice per day, you will get into that routine. What I do is I actually put Canvas as my welcome screen when I open up Chrome. So when I open up my internet browser, the first thing I see is my login screen for Canvas. And the reason I do that is so that I do not forget that I am teaching an online class. Okay, and that reminds me, so then I don't forget and I get into a routine. So that's my first recommendation. The second recommendation is you should download the Canvas app and set some notifications to remind you. So if you go to the App Store on whatever device you use and type in Canvas Instructure, you could just type Canvas app, but the name of the company is Instructure. And so if you search for that, you'll find the Canvas app. Then you can log in to Canvas with your normal Canvas credentials, username and ID. And then you can set notifications and you can check your messages. You can get announcements from me on the app. You can communicate with other classmates on the app. The only thing you can't really do is a couple things you can't do on the app. One of them is you cannot take quizzes and exams on the app. You have to do that on a laptop. But I think you can view some of the lessons possibly on the app. I'm not sure. You'll have to really look into it. Okay, so the next thing I recommend that you do is plan your life. Okay, plan your week, plan your days. You're a college student and you have a lot of things you have to do. You have a lot of responsibilities. You may have a job. You probably have 5 classes. You might be involved in a couple clubs or activities. You might be an athlete. Your life is busy, I promise you. Okay, so you need to plan when you're going to wake up in the morning. You need to plan when you're going to go to bed at night. You need to plan on what days you're going to write papers for certain classes. You need to plan when you're going to study and for how long you're going to study and with whom you're going to study. You need to plan your life in order to be able to be successful. If you are not planning your life, someone else is planning your life for you. And all you're doing is being impulsive. You're letting them plan your life for you. So then other people come to you and they say, hey, could you do this for me? Or hey, let's go do this together. Your friend comes to you and says, hey, let's go play ultimate frisbee. And now your friend planned to play ultimate frisbee on this particular afternoon. You did not. So your friend is gonna play ultimate frisbee, and you say, "Sure, yeah, I'll go play ultimate frisbee." Now you have not planned when you're going to study, you have not planned when you're going to write papers, and you have not planned when you're going to sleep or when you're going to do whatever it is that you have to do. And so you just go play ultimate frisbee. Then you go eat. Then you have a friend that wants to watch a movie. Yeah, I'll come over to your room and I'll watch a movie. Let's watch another movie. Now you wind up talking for 3 hours until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then you realize, oh my goodness, I have class at 8 o'clock in the morning. I better go to sleep. The conversation drags on for another 20 minutes. Finally, you go to your room. When you go back to your room, you think because it's 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody's going to be asleep, but they're not. 3 of your roommates or 3 of your suite mates are still awake and they're watching a movie. So you go and you watch that movie, and then you finally go to bed at 3:30 in the morning, and then you got to get up at 7:58 so that you can make it to your 8 o'clock class. Now, everything I'm saying, I promise you, someone knows exactly what I'm talking about. That may sound entertaining and fun, but I promise you what's happening is you are losing time and you have a lot of things that you have to get done. And in this online class, if you do that every day, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of unhappy Sundays, because what you're going to do is you're not going to complete all your assignments throughout the week or the 2 weeks, which is what I recommend. I recommend do your warm-up on Monday or Tuesday. Watch the first lesson on Wednesday. Now these lessons, some of them are an hour and 20 minutes long, and you got to do 3 of them in 2 weeks, or you have to do 3 of them in 1 week. So on Wednesday, you watch one of the videos, and then you answer your discussion question. Then on Thursday, you watch another lesson. Friday, you watch a lesson. Saturday, you do the summary assignment, and then Sunday, you take the quiz. You spread the work out across the week so that you don't wreck one day every week. Because here's what's going to happen. You try to cram. Don't try to cram everything into Sunday afternoon, because you may have plans on Sunday. There might be something important going on after church on Sunday. Your parents may want you to come over and have dinner or something like that. But if you cram everything into Sunday afternoon, you're not going to get it all done at a quality level, okay? Online classes can wreck all of your Sundays if you do not plan your life and complete the assignments throughout the week. And you can remember to do these things by downloading the Canvas app and setting up some notifications, and you'll remember that you're in an online class if you log into Canvas every day, at least twice a day, okay? This is my encouragement to you. This is all I have to say about that, and this is all I have to say in this online conference. If you have any questions, send me a message and we'll figure it out. But make it a great semester, and I'm here to help. Have a great night.